Thank you to all our panelists for another fascinating discussion. There's one quick thing we're going to do before lunch, and that's to hear from a very important figure in the world of both investing and in transition planning. So we have a speech on the role of transition finance in reforming global financial architecture to achieve net zero. And many of you will have heard of the UK Transition Planning Task Force, which announced its gold standard, to use its own quote, disclosure frameworks for companies and financial institutions just 2 weeks ago. The co-chair of the Transition Planning Task Force is Blanc, who is the Group CEO of Aviva, one of Europe's biggest insurance companies. So we're going to quickly, just before lunch, hear from her on the role of transition finance in reforming the global financial architecture. So let's hear from Amanda now.
Hello, everyone. And thank you so much to the SGX Group and OMFIF for organising this excellent event. I'm only sorry that I can't be with you in person. I'm Amanda Blanc, the Group CEO of Aviva and co-chair of the UK Government's Transition Plan Task Force, the TPT. I know you'll all be aware of the task force, but we have a lot of sectors and organisations represented here today. So let me begin with a quick introduction to Aviva. We are the UK's largest insurer and a substantial global investor, a financial institution that can trace its history back over 300 years. We've always taken a long-term view of every aspect of our customers' lives. The products and services we provide have a significant impact on their lives, both today and long into the future. Our purpose is to help people plan and prepare for a secure future for themselves and their families. So the climate challenge is core to our business model. And that is why we have thrown ourselves and all our influence behind climate transition planning, both in terms of Aviva's own plan and my role on the UK TPT. Today, I've been asked to use this experience to draw out a few suggestions for how everyone can build on what the TPT and others, such as GFANZ, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, are doing on transition plans. I want to preface this by saying that I don't have all the answers. At Aviva and in the TPT, we are learning by doing, building the plane while it's in the air. We're a couple of years into the journey now, so I hope that our experience can help you in some way. We found that there are 3 key stages to creating a deliverable net zero plan. Firstly, give it a go. Don't let the desire for perfection be the enemy of delivering the right results. Secondly, use what's out there. There is a growing library of excellent material specifically directed at organisations producing transition plans. And finally, work together. High quality plans require deep collaboration between lots of groups. So let me unpack each of those in turn. Firstly, give it a go. It's almost 2 years since we started working on the first release of Aviva's climate transition plan. We published it at the start of last year, setting out the steps that we'll take to reduce emissions to net zero in our operations and supply chain by 2030, and in our underwriting and investments by 2040. I said when we released the plan, and I'll say it again now, our plan isn't perfect. No plan could be. But it has turbocharged action on net zero across our business. It also gives us a platform to help build the UK framework as part of the TPT, as well as the parallel global framework created by GFANZ. To put it simply, we learned how to create a transition plan by doing one, and it helped us connect parts of the business in ways that had never been before. It all started with a blank piece of paper. We had no idea how we were going to do it, but we knew we had to start somewhere. And this doesn't just apply to the corporates in the room. Leading regulators are now drafting their own transition plans, and personally, I would like to see governments and international institutions, such as the IMF and the World Bank, doing the same. Everyone can benefit from the clarity, consistency, and direction that transition planning can provide. So I'll say it again, give it a go. Secondly, when you do get started, use what's out there. There are now comprehensive frameworks available for organisations that want to produce a consistent, comparable transition plan. Frameworks that have been developed and successfully used by people like you. The first of these, produced by GFANZ, was the result of extensive consultation with some of the largest financial firms in the world. I know that you will be hearing from GFANZ later on, so I won't dwell on the detail of that framework. Aviva co-led that GFANZ work alongside HSBC, and we hope it will form a global standard for transition planning. It won't surprise you to discover that the other framework I recommend you consult is the one prepared by the UK TPT. The TPT framework deliberately builds on the GFANZ framework and docks into the ISSB standard. They're consistent and complementary. I think this point is worth emphasising, as there is sometimes, understandably, a fear that GFANZ, the ISSB and TPT are creating competing frameworks. This is absolutely not the case. In fact, the final TPT guidance, which we released at the start of October, explicitly brings out the relationship with GFANZ and ISSB, as well as providing a guide for users. It can be seriously daunting starting out in this process, but help is at hand. So please do take a look if you're after inspiration for your own transition plan. The final stage of the TPT's work will be to provide guidance to help companies in specific sectors produce transition plans, building on the overarching framework already released. Keep your eyes out for our consultation on this sector-specific guidance in the next few weeks. Again, if you work in one of the sectors covered, including banking, asset management, and oil and gas, you will find this guidance particularly helpful. As I hope you can tell from that quick overview, there is really no shortage of helpful material for companies producing a transition plan. And I can personally vouch for the GFANZ and TPT frameworks as having been created with a great deal of collective expertise and input. There is no longer any excuse for you to make a start. Your peers are involved, your regulators are involved, as are your financiers. The only piece missing from the puzzle is perhaps you. My experiences building these frameworks in both GFANZ and the TPT led me to my final suggestion. We need to work together to create these plans. For me, this is about building better models for collaboration on transition planning, both within the regions and the sectors, and between regions and sectors. The TPT has been a powerful example of what is possible through collaboration at a country level. I co-chair the group with Baroness Penn, a minister from the UK Treasury, with other ministries well represented around the table. UK regulators from the FCA and Bank of England are also in the group. Then there are executives from the UK finance sector and real economy firms, as well as civil society. Together, we have built a framework that will help UK organisations deliver on their climate ambitions. So I would strongly recommend not only looking at the TPT outputs, but also looking at the TPT process. But we are all moving at different paces, in different countries and in different sectors, and everyone is looking for a leader in this space. I would advise that you stop looking for that leader and adopt the role yourself, because nobody else is going to do it for us. So if you are a corporate in a country or a region with no transition planning guidance, why not start a conversation with your government or regulatory contacts about what you could do together using the TPT process as a model? And if you represent a regulator or government, use your convening power to bring stakeholders together and build something that works for your market. Your collective role has arguably never been more important than it is on this single issue. But all our individual and collective efforts will fail if we don't consolidate and build best practice and consistency globally. The various cross-regulatory groups have an important role to play here, and I hope the ISSB, FSB, NGFS and others will continue to show leadership. Now is not the time for fragmentation. I want to emphasise again that this collaboration should not only apply to corporate transition plans. Governments and regulators should be developing, implementing and reporting against their own plans too. In this way, the public and private sector transition planning can provide mutual support and challenge. So there you have my 3 suggestions for today. If you haven't already, get going on creating your first transition plan. Use all the material out there, not least from GFANZ and the TPT, to help make your task easier. And work with others to get it done. If your country or region already has some kind of transition planning process, lean into it. If it doesn't, set one up. Believe me, I know this isn't easy and it isn't perfect, but it is incredibly valuable work, both for individual organisations and for society as a whole. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that none of us have ever faced a challenge like the one we all face today. But if there's one thing that defines a true leader, It is their ability to see a challenge, relish it, and tackle it using all of the experience and expertise that they can muster. And that is why you are all here today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event, and I can't wait to hear of the many more transition plans that get started as a result. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, for that call to arms. We're going to break for lunch now, but before you all get up, there'll be about half an hour, plenty of time to mingle outside and get your food. Over lunch, then, starting at around 1:30, we will have a workshop, and I think it's an important one. It follows on from what we've been talking about just now. A workshop on a global perspective on transition planning for corporates and financial institutions with Yuki Yasui, who's Managing Director of GFAN's Asia Pacific Network, and Monica Bay, the Director of Investor Practice at AIGCC. So mingle away for half an hour, but if you want to, please come back here. You can bring your food into here with you, and at around 1:30, we'll have the workshop. Then we'll have a very full afternoon of 4 more sessions. So stick around and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much indeed.